pray to our gods of different nations, learning our differences of afterlife and creation.
Hey everyone, thank you for joining us today here on the I Am podcast. You may have noticed that we haven't had a podcast in, I guess maybe 5 months now. You may have noticed that my appearance has changed significantly. If you were watching our program before, I've actually been living up in the mountains for the last 3 months and haven't had a chance to shave or get a haircut. So it's been a little shocking to my friends. I've come back here to Texas. But yeah, my reasoning for not doing the podcast for the last 5 months is basically because I didn't want to. I didn't want to feel any kind of pressure. I'm doing this podcast because it causes me to grow in the knowledge of who I am. And that's my primary reason. And so, yeah, I think moving forward, we're going to do occasional podcasts. We'll put that on the air when we felt led to do it. But glad everybody's able to join us today. So today I'm in a different studio as well. You may notice that the studio is different. I'm in my friend Lane McCall's studio, and Lane is my guest today.
Right on. At my own place.
That's right.
Pretty good.
That's right. And we're just going to kind of have a free-flowing conversation today. We're going to talk about his experience that he had recently, kind of where I'm at in my thinking, or I don't know what the term would be, but where I am spiritually right now, I guess you would say. And then I thought we'd spend a little time talking about the political environment. I've been up in the mountains for 3 months. I hadn't watched the news, I think, one time. And I get back here to Texas, and everybody's talking about ICE protest, and we're going to invade Greenland, and then there was a Venezuela situation and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today, too, and kind of what that means from a spiritual perspective. So anyways, I'm glad to see you, brother.
It's good to see you too, man. Yeah.
It's been a while. It's been a while for sure.
Yeah.
We need to go eat fajitas again,
I know. Absolutely.
Yep.
I didn't know you were out of town for so long.
Yeah.
But that must have been nice, like just nature around you for 3 months.
It was, so everything that I'm experiencing in my life right now is things that I've visualized, for quite some time. And, if you have studied manifestation at all and visualization and everything, people will tell you that the key is to experience the emotion, right? So if you visualize, you have a ranch, like I have a ranch, what's that experience going to be like? What kind of emotions are you going to experience? And it seems like the more I started experiencing that, the more these things, again, begin to manifest. It's true.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, we'll talk a little bit about that too, and I kind of talk about my experience and where I'm at. So let's just start with you and this, would you call it an awakening that you had, or?
Yeah, there is an awakening. It's interesting. Like I was a spiritual seeker for 25 years. Like I had an encounter when I was 19 in college. I didn't think there was a God. And then suddenly I was surrounded by this presence, like nothing but love. I wept for 45 minutes from my toes. And it was, it gave me a sense of trust, a sense of, well, if there's something bigger than me, and there in my heart, I was like, well, what do I really want to do? It kind of set me free in my thinking because I believed that love was real ultimately. Like if you can believe that there's a love that overshadows everything, it puts you at ease because no matter what, you know that you're okay. But that's a fleeting experience. You can have those experiences, but they don't last because there's something in the way. Yeah. And
is it kind of like a born again experience? Would you consider it, or
like
they do in Christianity, or?
Yeah. So it's very there's I didn't really know this experience. Oh, that experience that I had. No, I would call that an encounter. Like really, it was just like, oh wow, there's a God, there's love, but nothing. The thing that changed on the inside for me then was a trust, a belief in love. So I was okay to just pursue a passion. I moved to New York and studied acting. I wasn't even I just. Wow. That sounds fun, and I had, my grandparents had left me, all the grandkids, some money to go to college, and I was just wasting away in liberal arts school. So I just took that money and went to acting school instead. And it was incredible, very creative, very fun. But that love freed my mind to think outside the box, I guess, and give myself permission. So you've probably experienced things like that, I would imagine.
Yeah, it's... you have these religious experiences, and whenever it's really real and impactful is exactly what you're saying, where you just have this encounter with love.
Yeah.
And I interviewed a pastor. He was actually my pastor for 20 years, and he talked about when he got born again and how it just was like an amazing experience. It was just, he was just was consumed with love, to the point, I think he was in somebody's car, and this person shared what he thought was the gospel at that time. And he said he literally could feel the car shaking.
Yeah.
There was so much energy in that moment and so much love in that moment. But yeah, I think it's all about that encountering that love that's within us, and that creative love or force that created everything,
It's true. And what, so I didn't really realize this, but what happened to me more recently, and this is the first time I've spoken about it publicly, my family all knows, and it's been pretty incredible. But there is what seems to be, like we were talking before this about Eckhart Tolle. You probably read his book, The Power Now. Mm-hmm. So Great his book. Experience where he was filled with anxiety, and then he heard like a voice that just don't resist, and he just so something changed significantly. So that's
overnight for him.
Yeah. And that's similar to what happened. It's weird to say to me actually when this happens, because it's but that's similar to what I experienced about 2.5 months ago. So and what can seem to happen in some people, and what's actually going on here is that we walk around with a profound sense of being an individual. Yeah. That I am Elaine McCall and you are Mike. Right. And everyone is a separate individual. Mm-hmm. But that is just a thought. That is what we call the ego. It's not really, the ego is not an entity. It's a literal thought system that works its way into the entire subconscious.
Like a perception.
A total perception that you're here and God is here. And then we can talk about there's oneness and there's unity, but we still can have a profound sense of being separate. And we're always trying to stay connected to God or be aware of God. But what happened to Eckhart and what I experienced a couple months ago was it's like a collapse of that sense. So I was sitting at my kitchen table, and there was a thought pattern that happened on the inside. And I didn't know so many people experience this and people talk about it, but they do. But what seems to happen is that, or what happened in my thought life was that I had a thought, does God live inside of time? What would you say to that question?
No.
So God's beyond time.
He's beyond time. Yeah.
So time is not a constraint that God has. Okay, so if God is beyond time, then how could you ever tell a story about God that's accurate?
Yeah.
Because a story has to say, okay, it started at A, it went to B, went to C, went to time. Story is time. So there's no real story about God, because we would say God is the absolute, the beyond time, beyond shape, beyond weight, beyond dimension. Yeah. That's the absolute. But here, and God also doesn't change. because time involves change and God doesn't change. Okay, we accept this as Christians, as we grow up with this concept, and I think it's a correct concept.
We teach that and we see that in the scriptures, but we don't
Yes.
practice it. Christians don't believe it.
Right.
You know?
It's
It's all about separation.
yes.
Even separation from God, and God's up here and we're down here, and
Right.
Jesus is somewhere in between, and it's just kind of crazy.
It is crazy. So I'm sitting there at my kitchen table. And I have this thought. Okay, there's no story you can tell about God. And then I had the thought, well, that same eternal life lives in me. So if that same eternal life lives in me, that has no beginning, no end, I'm like, you can't tell an accurate story about me either. Because my real identity is this eternal life. And when I did that, I had a flash of thoughts like, so this Lane McCall character, born 1978, grew up in Maine, went to this high school, all these things are a story.
78?
Yeah, I know, right?
I've got a hemorrhoid older than you. That came out of a movie. That was a line in a movie.
That's funny.
Morgan Freeman. Michael Douglas was dating this 20-something-year-old girl in this movie. I
Yeah.
can't remember the name of the movie. They were like in Vegas or something. And Morgan Freeman looked at him and he goes, "How old is she?" And Michael Douglas said 28 or however she was. And he goes, "I got a hemorrhoid older than her."
I think I remember that.
It was hilarious.
That's pretty good.
I use that line all the time. People get a good laugh at it.
That's pretty good. But I hope you don't, because that'd be a rough situation. But so I'm sitting at the table and I have the thought, there's no story you could tell about me. And it's kind of all hitting me in a wave. And then my mind goes, well, then who am I? And it was a deep question. And it wasn't a question I could mentally come up with. It was one of those that just arises. And as soon as that question, half a second later, I'm sitting at my table and I'm looking around and the sense of the individual me was gone. Like I was there looking, but it was like I was one with everything. I was one with the table. I looked out the window. There was a little leaf, like I was just telling you, blowing in the wind. And I laughed because I realized that everything, it hits you in a wave. It's like eternity comes up to your time-based life and just goes bang. And then all that's left is eternity. And you're sitting here, and I'm still sitting here now, and it grows, actually. It's like the dawn of this awakening. And then it grows, it expands. And I'm sitting here and I'm going, I'm all of this. I'm not just this thing. And we talk about oneness and unity with God, and that's true, but we kind of carry typically a sense of separation when we talk about oneness. And as soon as that happened, like this sense of wholeness appeared on the inside of me, a sense of wholeness and peace, deep peace, because I was no longer missing anything. I was one with all. Like, and when it sat there and it stayed the whole time. Like that peace has not left it, because it's just a realization that there is nothing separate from you.
So it's been constant.
Completely constant.
Yeah.
On the surface, you go through these shifts in your body physically, like neurologic. I was telling you before we started filming, but I stopped drinking coffee because I started getting all this anxiety in the chest. And I've been drinking coffee for over a decade, 15, 20 years. And but my body rejected it all of a sudden. It's like your body shifts to an awakening that, because you also see you're now just like a vessel of this, not in this holier than thou way, but it's just a realization that I've been this whole thing the whole time. I am one with all of this the whole time. And the communication becomes, you and I are the same. So when I look at you, I'm looking in the mirror. I'm looking at myself. And it's not this weird, spiritually goofy thing. If you get it down to the practical, like if everyone believed that they were one with everyone else, how much love would there be? How much friendship would there be? How much trust would there be?
You just hit the nail on the head right there. That's the key, There's, you know who Dr. David Hawkins is?
Yeah.
Like Sheila Bagley used to, I think she's a big fan of his or whatever. And I remember hearing her talk about him, and I was
You
always
wrote
like,
the book
"Who's this
Letting Go, right?
guy?" Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
That book's like, I read it kind of like scripture, you know. I mean, I just pick it up, and it's just so profound, you know, everything that he talks about. But he talks about how if you have negative emotions towards a particular individual,
Yeah.
let's say whether it's a husband, wife, you know, brother, sister, whatever it may be, coworker, and you have those negative feelings in your heart and your mind, and you encounter them, they sense it, and they reflect back to you the negative emotions that you have, because we're all connected in a way that we don't fully understand.
And that's manifestation that you're talking about. It's connected to that too, because you and I are one. If I hold a grudge against you in my heart, I'm holding it against me.
Yourself.
I experienced that years ago before this. I was sitting, hanging out with a bunch of guys. We were doing a filming project, and they, you know, they're drinking, smoking, partying, cussing, like whatever. Cussing, I don't really say that word, but you know what I mean. But F-bombs dropping all over the place. And I just had this little thought on the inside of, I was nervous around them. I was nervous. And I was like, why am I nervous? And then I heard this little voice on the inside say, because you're judging them. I was like, oh. And I stopped, and immediately all the nervousness just left. It was, but that's the reality of it. We are one.
Yeah.
Whatever you give, you receive.
Yeah. That's the key to all the world's problems.
It really is.
We stop looking at them as, and again, in Christianity, it's you're a believer, not non-believer. You know, there's kind of a separation there. You know, politics, you know, we're seeing that. You got, are you left? Are you right? You know, it's funny how people put those types of labels on you and stuff.
Yeah.
So would you consider that experience, what they talk about is, what's the word? An awakening.
It's what people use the word liberation, awakening, enlightenment. It's all the same thing. But what happens is when that happened, I was like, oh, I'm done. Like, that's it. That's all there is. But what happens is it dawns, like it starts from an appearance, like it apparently, you realize time's not real either. So talking about things becomes a little bit interesting, because I'm sitting here talking to you going, yeah, I don't believe in time, but we're talking about the past, we talk about the future, we talk about story. But it's not the absolute. Like if we say God is the absolute and you realize I'm one with that, then time is the illusion. So you see it awakens, but then it kind of expands and grows, and you start changing without effort. Like fear goes. I started to really realize that all I see is me. I don't mean the individual me, but I'm one with God. I'm one with all of this. And so there is a oneness. And so I look at you, and I really started to see myself in other people. I'm like, oh, that looks like me in a sense. And so it deepens and it expands, but it changes significantly, because for 25 years, I was a spiritual seeker. Like I was seeking. I studied, I went to Bible school for a decade, studied the Bible, studied thousands and thousands of hours, like many of us have done. But
same boat. Yeah.
But that awakening, when that happens, which is a time word, but when it reveals itself, it's always here. Like it's now for everybody. Yeah. But it's the end of seeking. Mm-hmm. You go, oh, what I was looking for the whole time was me, and I'm right here. And I'm right here. All of this is what I was looking for.
Which is God.
Which is God. Yeah. It's the same thing.
I mean, we talk so much about seeking God, and really what we're seeking is ourselves.
It's true. It's people get weird about that because they think you mean you in the body, because everyone's so associated with the body. And it really means the bigness of everything and the littleness is all one. And you can become aware of that. And that awareness makes you go, oh, okay. What is there to look for? There's nothing to look for. There's just love to give and enjoy. You know, I mean, that's about all we're doing here.
That sounds real similar to what Eckhart experienced.
It's very
you know.
similar.
I mean, he was really depressed, I think suicidal, and he claims that what he think shifted in him and what triggered it was the negative emotions
Oh,
and
for
everything
sure.
were so intense that it just something just kind of broke, I think, within him, you know. And then before, so the way, if I remember it correctly, he was experiencing these negative emotions, suicidal, went to bed, woke up the next morning, and when he began to look around, everything was different. All he saw was love and abundance and goodness, and he went and sat on a park bench for like a whole year or something, you know, and I don't know if he was working or what he was doing, but just kind of looking around and just being and experiencing this love that he was just consumed by, you know. And for me, that's what, Christians talk about being born again. I believe he was born again in that moment.
Yeah.
Now, he didn't pray a prayer and ask Jesus into his heart and all that, but he had an encounter with God, which is love and which is everything, and it just transformed him,
Yes.
you know. So I get a little jealous when I hear about people that have had those experiences, because it's something that I believe is real and I desire. I've had experiences where had one when I was in Thailand, of all places, and I was on this island there in Thailand, and I'd had some negative things happen. And I'm sitting on the beach, and there's this beautiful tree there, and as I'm looking up at the tree, it was like my vision was enhanced. I could see every leaf in the tree and the veins running through the leaves, and and the color was crazy, and I was like, what is happening to me? I mean, what's going on, But for me, it was fleeting because it just didn't last. It didn't continue, So, but I think where I'm at right now, it's been more of a progressive shift.
Yeah.
But I really, truly believe, Lane, that I'm right on that cuspus of having an experience like what you talked about.
Some people, after this happened, I started looking into it more because I was like, what? Not to learn, but to see what are other people saying about, like what, But some people, it's very, very gradual. Some people it is. But it's the path everyone is on because we are one and everyone is on that. And it's also, when this happens too, the other thing you see is that there really is a will that's not the individual that's taking place here. So like we think we go around and make all these choices, but if you really think about it, where are these choices coming from? Where are you, and I don't want to go too far down that road because people get weird thinking about it, but there's some things that are just out of the individual's control that you don't have to worry about. And it's like, so the path that you're on is the path of awakening. And I have not heard two stories the same. Everyone is different, unique, individual. And like for me, I had that encounter, but then the other moments then it would kind of fade, and then I went through anxiety with the coffee thing, and then you kind of like sit in silence a lot more.
So it wasn't like from that moment on you didn't experience any negative emotions. You still experienced some negative emotions and different things, but something was just different.
It's like you can have all the experiences of being a regular person, but there's a continual awareness that you are not the person, you're the one watching the person. Like you're the witness of it. And you've probably heard that terminology.
Absolutely. I know exactly what you're talking about.
And so you're kind of resting there. But if I get involved in work or talking on the phone or whatever, you forget about it. It runs in the background.
Yeah.
It's just like the ego is a software program running on a computer that makes the computer think it's a separate individual, separate from all these things. And it seems to be that there can be a wiping out of that software program. And then you're like, oh, I'm just this. Yeah. And it's not. It doesn't overwhelm you all the time. It's just like the default after a while. You're just there, but then you start talking about it, and then it kind of makes itself appear to you a bit, you know. Yeah. And then other experiences have happened in there, but it's I do believe that that's where everyone is headed, though. It's for sure.
Oh, I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
But this whole, we talked about our oneness and how we're connected in ways. I've got some relatives that in the past I had difficulty getting along with, right? And just seemed like there was, some of it's addictions and different things like that these people struggle with. I think that's a primary cause of some of the negativity. And it was kind of like getting to the point where, you just want to, what's the word they want to use, where you just don't want to be around them anymore.
Right.
You're setting boundaries. You hear that a lot. People say, I'm setting boundaries. I don't need to be around this negative person, and all that kind of stuff. And if that's where you're at, I understand that, if you can't handle it. But I'm just, these difficult people now, I just have love in my heart for them.
Yeah.
And now, when I talk to them, it's a totally different conversation. It's there's no arguing, it's just talking about life and love and, abundance and all these different things. And then they reflect that back.
Yes, for sure.
To me. And this is, my wife and I, we talk about this all the time, how we're kind of getting to the point where whenever we have a negative emotion, like maybe, let's say I say something or I do something and it upsets my wife, and she gets angry, whatever it is, we're both starting to realize really doesn't have anything to do with what was said or what was done.
Mm-hmm.
It's about your perception of it, and these constructs and these different things that, have been ingrained into us that cause us to react that way.
Mm-hmm.
Because you mentioned something about everything's a choice. We choose how we're going to react to something or not react to something.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, that's profound what you've been through.
So what I actually did too was there's all kinds of different, like you mentioned Eckhart, like, and he went through that extreme anxiety. And then the question that he asked himself, because I bought his book again after I read it years ago, but the question he asked himself was, so he had this thought, it was, I can't live with myself anymore.
Yeah.
And then he thought, wait, who is the me that can't live with myself? Like, are there two of me?
Yeah.
And that thought caused the awakening to happen in him. Just like the thought here with me was, oh, wait, there's no story you can tell about me? Then who am I? It was a deep consideration. Yeah. And that seemed to but everyone's ego is built on something different. How my ego was constructed apparently had a belief in story and time and all that. And it was got wobbly and wobbly until the one thing, just that question pulled the rug out from underneath it and it collapsed. With Eckhart, it was the anxiety. But what I actually did was, for probably 5 or 6 years, I really got into A Course in Miracles, which some people don't like. I just felt like it always, I was like, there's something there for me. There's something there for me. And the main thing that was really there for me was there's a thought in there, or the whole thing of it, you can boil it down to one practice, which is forgive the world for what it did not do, or forgive your brother for what he did not do. Meaning it acknowledges that time is an illusion and that the past is not real. You can remember things, but you're not beholden to anything from the past.
It doesn't exist. Yeah.
So in the now, where you are now, if you're holding anything from the past, like you're just talking about your relatives, if you hold those things, you're making it real because you believe that past is real. It has weight, it has substance, and it has an emotional reaction that I give it. And so that is how we love the world, so to speak. We hold on to the happenings here and we say they're real and they affect me.
Yeah.
And when you start to, at least what happened with me was I started to just practice that for about 6 months. I just forgive my brother for what he did not do. I would just forgive all day. Just if I thought of something, just forgive, be in that practice of forgiveness. And I feel like that kind of loosened the ground for me to have that awakening kind of happen.
Yeah, it's what they call mindfulness, right? And for me, and it's just crazy you even talked about that because that was one of the experiences I wanted to talk about. But I'm getting better and better at when I have these negative emotions or I'm in a situation, being able to separate myself from those emotions, that experience, and observe it.
Yeah.
And the problem I've always had is if there's a problem or something, I'm going to fix it. You know, I'm a fixer, right? And it doesn't really work that way, you know, for that. You have to just let it happen. Even the negative emotions and stuff that you experience, instead of fighting those, you just observe them.
Absolutely.
And then they begin to just diffuse. But the more you fight them, you know, it's that saying, what you resist persists. Man, that's, if you understand that, and that's life, you know, I mean, if you are really resisting something, whether it's negative emotions, a health problem, whatever it is, and you're so consumed by it and you're fighting it with everything you got, it just will continue to persist in your life, you know, versus just letting it go. You know, just for letting it go. So
that's like I never studied Buddhism, but the little bits I've heard where Buddha really talked about not going into the extremes of resisting or wanting. Just kind of stay in that middle path. And that's what Course in Miracles really talks about too, is that just don't make the world your reality in a sense. Like you want to, like being the observer or coming from a point of the witness, like that separation, that little bit of separation. And you can do separation by saying if anger rises up, you can go, oh, that's anger about this, or that's sadness, or just by labeling it, you're already creating a little gap between your identity and what that is. You don't have to try to get rid of it. You actually, I don't believe you should at all, just like you said. You just allow it and watch it and let it do what it's going to do. But
so I had an experience last night. This is so good because it just relates. I found it to be true wherever I'm at, the conversations I have and everything. It's just like everything is about that. You know? And so I've been up in the mountains for 3 months. I think I watched the news maybe once or twice. We were up there. We have a TV, but we're just busy doing projects and doing different things. So I come back to Texas and I turn on the news and there's just all this craziness, you know, these ICE protests and, you know, situation that happened in Venezuela. And then now, you know, Greenland, you know, Trump wanting to annex or take over Greenland, you know, that type of deal. So I went on Facebook and I just threw out a question and I said, look, I understand why the Trump administration wants to annex Greenland, you know, strategic importance of it and all that. And I understand all his reasoning behind it. But what I'm trying to figure out is, you know, what's his plan on how to make that happen? Because it appears that he would even consider using military force to go in there and take over Greenland, you know, and Greenland's a autonomous government, elected officials. They're connected to Denmark in kind of a strange way, but you know, how can you do that? I mean, how would he be any different than Vladimir Putin and what he did in Ukraine? You know? Oh, I think this is going to be beneficial to Russia. So we're going to invade a country against the people's will, forcibly try to take it over. There's really no difference, you know. So I posed the question and got some really great responses back, and with one exception, you know. And it was a guy that I went to high school with. Of course, I would never mention his name. And I'd seen some stuff on there before. This guy's hardcore MAGA guy, you know, just Trump's God, you know, and all this kind of, you know, very, very committed to you know, his ideals about Trump. And so he starts making comments. He says, look, you know, the people of Greenland, they're all for this. I saw some interviews on TV, and they're excited about it. They're all for it. So I go back and I do a little research, and I use I try to get away from like mainstream media, and I look
Yeah.
at different sources that are more just about data and stuff. And ChatGPT is awesome because I asked ChatGPT, I said, do you have any polls or information about Greenland and whether or not Greenland, wants to be annexed or not? So ChatGPT just laid it out, right? And said, oh, no. And some of these polls were kind of old. I think there was one in 2019 and stuff. But bottom line was ChatGPT was saying that about 85% of the people in Greenland don't want it, and are very adamant they don't want it. So I copy what ChatGPT says. I pasted into my response to this guy. I said, hey, you can't watch your particular preferred media outlet that may be a very conservative type outlet, and they go up and they interview a handful of people in Greenland, and say they're for it, and assume that the whole country is on board with this, right? But that's what happens, right? And so I cut and paste what ChatGPT's in my response. I said, hey, here's what it's about. And his response was, it was very negative. It was, Michael, who the hell do you think you are? What makes you an expert on Greenland, And where are you getting this information? When did you turn into he called me a libertard and a buttercup,
Yeah.
And what it was, and there's certain people, no matter what side you're on, right? Some people, if you say anything or if there's any criticism whatsoever towards Trump, they immediately label you as you're some radical left-wing nutcase, right? And vice versa. You can be talking to somebody that leans left and you say, well, I supported Trump in this particular situation, border control, whatever it may be. Oh, man, you're a right-wing, conservative, and so he responds back, and man, I just started boiling up. I was getting angry, and I was like, man, that dude was here in the room right now, I would punch him right in the face, because it was just ridiculous, calling me his name. So this is all stirring up in me, right? And all of a sudden I went, what am I doing? What's, and that's where that awareness came in.
Yeah.
It's like, what, all these negative, hateful
Yeah.
emotions, that's what the problem is.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what people are experiencing on a day-to-day basis in this country now, depending on what side you're on.
Yeah.
And I said, where is all this coming from? So as soon as I was able to recognize it and see it and recognize that it was the ego, I mean, it was the ego big time, who does this guy think he is? Calling me names and all that kind of stuff. So it subsided fairly quickly, thank God. And I was fixing to go find this guy.
Right.
And so I finally, once I calmed down and I saw what was going on, I responded back. I said, hey, I appreciate your kind words and the fact that we could have an honest conversation. God bless.
Yeah.
And I just left it at that,
Yeah.
But this is where we're at, as a people,
Yeah.
as a country, people, they pick their source of information and then they sit there all day long, especially like elderly people,
Yeah.
don't work anymore and that kind of stuff. They'll sit in front of the TV all day and they'll listen to one particular news media outlet. And so they're just totally indoctrinated and they build these constructs because of what they're being fed,
Yeah.
the whole time. And then you got somebody's polar opposites. So I had that encounter with him. We were coming back from Colorado just a few days earlier than that. I stopped off to see an old coworker that I worked with for like 30 years, and he retired about 6 years ago, and they kind of live out in the middle of nowhere, right, but close to Wichita Falls. So it was a little bit out of our way. I went there, see where they lived. I'd never been there. had a good conversation with him, but somehow some politics started coming up. And after a few minutes, it became plainly obvious that they were far left now, and they hated Trump. They, all this kind of stuff, ICE, they're, trying to take over just all this craziness, and so I said a few things. They didn't really react very positively to it. So I said, well, it's just not a good time to talk about it. But I just saw, man, where people are drawn into that, know, and how it affects them. But yeah, like you said, once you realize that person that you think is your adversary and your enemy is one with you, that changes everything. And it's even, look, Trump loves some of the things he's done, okay? Hates some of the things he's done, okay?
That's like almost every other person on the planet. Like, oh yeah, that was a good decision. That was a bad decision. Like who in your life has been A+ decisions that it's just not.
Well, it's about being unbiased and say, hey, I think you hit a home run with this deal, and this deal not so much. I mean, it's just, but the media, and the conservative media outlets, you have certain individuals that would never call Trump out on anything. They're going to support him even if he wants to forcibly take over another country using the military. Yeah. They're going to support him. Yeah. They're going to try to justify it. And some of the comments I got back were people trying to help me understand why he's wanting to do it. And I say, well, I understand that. I agree with that. But you can't force yourself into these people's lives and do a military takeover because it benefits you in some way. And I heard something yesterday. I'm trying to. I got into the news for about a week, and I said, "Man, I've had enough." Yeah. And so I'm just kind of winging back off of that. But someone had sent me something where Trump made some kind of a deal with NATO, or looked like a good deal, and somehow it establishes an American presence in Greenland, so we have that protection, that type of stuff. And he does that. He takes an extreme position. Right. But he really doesn't want this. Right. He wants this. So he takes that extreme position just to try to negotiate back to what he really wants. And he's an expert at doing that, You know
what baffles me with all this is like the whole world of politics in social media is that something can happen, anything. Something will happen next week. And within 2 minutes, everybody's an expert. Everyone has all these hardcore formed opinions, and they'll debate it. It's the silliest thing in the world. We have a Justice Department that will if you're really going to try a case, like if something happens and the cases take years. Like there's evidence and we just sit there and pass judgment just for the sake of passing judgment. Yeah. It's funny to me that people don't look in the mirror and see their own behavior and how silly it all is, but that is the ego. It desires to latch on to things and to find identity in things because it's always afraid. It's afraid that, the ego's always on shaky ground because it feels separate from everything. So it's trying to connect and find things to latch onto and hold on to. And then they'll fight you tooth and nail. And it's the same with politics and religion, as you know, because spirituality, unfortunately, even Christianity has largely been turned into the list of things to believe. So the list of things to know and then believe properly, and then you're in. Yeah. Which is just ego in a different form.
It is. Yeah, it's interesting. I think when I have conversations with people, I love having conversations with people about spiritual issues, political issues, those types of things. Yeah. But very few people can do that, especially if you have a different perspective than they have, right, without getting angry, without getting upset. It's like they say, don't ever discuss religion and politics with somebody because it's going to turn into an argument. I'm like, why? Well, why can't you just have a good, honest conversation with somebody that you love? Yeah. and say, well, look, I understand your perspective. Let me share my perspective. And you go back and forth, and that's how you grow, as human beings. But you got to be intuitive and knowing who's open-minded and who's not. Otherwise, it just takes you down a path.
It's true. Not everyone's at different spots. Like when you, some people don't even really, like the kind of liberation we were talking about earlier, some people want that. Like you said, oh, I'm a little jealous. Like I want that. Well, that's just because you want that because you're more in touch with like your own nature in that. Your own nature is sitting in you going, yeah, I know I'm beautiful. I know I'm holy. I know I'm all this. I know I'm connected. I know I'm not separate. I know I'm one. I'd love that experience a little more, but I know it's that's your nature just popping out. And it can like fade gradually. It can happen like that. But other people don't want that. And anyone really identified in the ego definitely does not want liberation, because liberation is going to show you that there never was an ego in the first place.
Yeah.
That
My
ego
is scared to death.
Absolutely.
Because it's fighting with everything it has to prevent me from waking up to who I truly am.
And it's interesting. So I suspect that, because I had this experience and I started telling my brother about it and my mom about it and then they all start having these experiences. Like my brother calls me and he goes, man, it was so interesting. I was at work the other day and I was just doing my stuff. And then all of a sudden it was like I was watching myself do it. Like, and he doesn't know anything about the witness or like, we've never talked about that. And so he's telling me this. I'm like, his name's Tyler. I'm like, Tyler, that's the witness. Like that's, tons of people talk about that. That's written about all over the place. He's like, really? Is it? So it's just, I've seen the energy of awakening is just effortlessly flowing out over people. And the more we simply get together around it, there's nothing you can do to wake up, because the you that's trying to wake up is the ego. Like the one that's doing is the one that liberation shows you that it was never there in the first place. That was the illusion. Yeah. So that's why we turn spirituality into a bunch of knowledge you get or knowing the right things or praying the right way. And that is all just doing things, which is just the ego. And the reality of it is just rest. Yeah. That's why I love the grace kind of message, is because the core of it is there's nothing you can do. Yeah. And there's different thoughts on why that is, but I don't care. Like my care is the actual awakening for people.
Mm-hmm. I have a pastor friend. I actually interviewed him in one of the interviews, and we were having this conversation, and he said, yeah, one day when I die, when I leave this world, I'm going to go to the other side. I'll be there in heaven with Jesus and all this kind of stuff. But I'm still going to be so-and-so.
Sure.
Okay, he mentions his name.
Yeah.
I'm still going to be, I'm like, no, you won't.
Yeah.
Because that's your ego. That's your essence may still be there, but what you're talking about, and even the scripture says you're going to have a new name.
Right.
Okay? I mean, you're going to, and that new name's really not a new name. It's who you've always been.
Yeah.
And you're going to, this facade, this ego is going to fade away into nothingness.
Yeah.
And you're just going to be like, whoa, I am one with everything.
Yeah.
And that's who God is. God is, who is God? He ain't some old man that looks like me, like Zeus sitting on a throne.
Yeah.
And he's everything.
Yeah.
He's I am. I am what? I am everything.
Yes.
Including us.
That's right.
And
when you wake up to that, you start to go, oh, I am everything. Not in an egotistical way. Mm-hmm. It's just the realization of God. It's the realization of this oneness. Yes. And I like to say, like I talked to my mom about it at 7, I'll remind her, I'm like, there's no God over there. Like you can't point to a God over there. You point that you can't do it. God is.
That's right.
Just is. And the funny thing about a name, so yeah, the new name is interesting. That what, how they talk about, like even in the Old Testament, they couldn't say the name of God. Mm-hmm. It's because God is not an object. God is not an object you can point to. Beyond time, beyond space, beyond dimension, beyond distance, beyond separation, beyond all of these things. So if God is not an object, you can't name that object. So that's why you think about monks or people that really get it, like, and even after awakening, after is a weird word, but there's a lot of silence. Like there's an internal silence. You don't mind silence. Silence becomes the prayer because there's nothing to say anymore. It's been weird. There's nothing to say. There's nothing to ask for.
Yeah.
There's nothing to request. Everything is yours. Everything is yours. The scripture even says it. All things are yours.
You just are.
You just are.
I am. That's it.
I am.
I am. That's the name of this show.
And but you're still here. I'm still here walking around in a body. So what happens is you just have this sense of I am. Now it's kind of coming through a localized energy, so to speak, called a body. And people call me Lane, but I no longer believe that I'm a separate Lane. I'm like, me and Mike are same dude, same person. So I can look into your eyes and I can look deeply without fear and go, I love you because I see me in you. Yeah. And like you said, when you go to the other side, you're not going to lose that sense of who you are because you're already it. You don't lose that sense at all. Yeah. You just go, I'm not separate from everything. That's the only thing that changes.
A greater awareness of it. Yeah. Yeah, so true.
And we're that now. You're that now. It's just a little software program running thinking, I need to fight with this guy on Facebook to get, that's just a little, it's just a little nothing.
Yeah. I hear a lot, I've seen videos on YouTube and stuff where people talk about enlightenment and what the experience is like and everything. And, but they talk about how they, and you mentioned this, I think before we got on the air here, but when they have these experiences, they physiologically, their body changes, their appearance changes.
Yeah.
They look in the mirror, there's something different. It just completely transforms even the physical body.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think you said you've had some of that experience
which
as well.
Surprised me because I didn't know anything about it. I read after and go, that's what happens. It just happens.
You're growing hair.
Look, that's an answer to prayer. Like if you get, if that starts happening, man, shoot. But yeah, it must just, the whole physiology just gets affected. Like my eating habits change. I'm less hungry certain times than I'll eat. And then
naturally,
just you're not trying to do anything.
Yeah,
you're really not.
Yeah.
It's just your body starts going, nope, yes, nope, yes. Subtle, gradual, simple, and but pretty cool. I mean, pretty cool. The sense of peace has kind of grown. The sense of love for others has grown. Because even in the beginning, when I was drinking coffee was in a big. I didn't realize how much it was giving me thoughts and anxiety. Like so, I would have little thoughts that would come through the mind, and because that caffeine was in my system, my mind would try to grab it and hold it. That fear, and I was thinking, I'm processing mental stuff, psychological stuff, but it wasn't. I just stopped drinking coffee.
You know, it's funny you mentioned the coffee thing. It's really not funny. It's this conversation was meant to happen, right?
Yeah.
And so it's my experiences, your experiences have prepared us for this moment in time.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so I'll be 61 next month, and I didn't start drinking coffee until I was 60. And what happened was we were at a wedding in Mexico, the town San Miguel de Allende. Have you heard of it?
No.
It's kind of central Mexico. It's really a cool town. It's all Spanish colonial architecture, and they've got all these restaurants and nightclubs and stuff. And it's become a big wedding venue where people have weddings there, and they have these really cool churches and all this stuff. So we go down there for a wedding, and we're staying in this really neat hotel. It's all cobblestone right in the heart of the city. And my wife drinks coffee on occasion, so she orders a cup of coffee. Well, they bring it to her, and man, it smelled so good. I was like, love the smell of coffee, but never really did like the taste much. I said, bring me one of those. So they brought it. I put a little cream in it, and it was delicious. I really enjoyed it. So I started drinking it on a day-to-day basis, and I have noticed kind of the same thing, Lane, where I feel off. Like after I drink it, I just feel it's like something's off. And another thing, it makes you go to the bathroom.
That's true.
And I'm like, so I did a little research on that. It's toxic to your body, and it triggers a bowel release. And that makes you go to the bathroom. So a lot of people brag about that. Well, it keeps me regular. Yeah, well, it's trying to get that crap out of your body.
Right. Right.
And you know who David Bear is?
No.
So David Bear, he's big on YouTube. He's got a real popular YouTube channel, and he's been through everything. He's been through bankruptcy and anxiety. I think he was an alcoholic. Been through all these things, and it's funny because I was watching one of his podcasts fairly recently, and he just quit drinking coffee. Period. And he said because he knew that it wasn't good for him, that there was something going on, And he said he hated it because he loved coffee. It was kind of like
same. I didn't want to quit.
Yeah, I mean, coffee's like it's a rite of passage, people, you get up in the morning, you smell that coffee, and it's just like people are obsessed with that, But he said when he got off, and he was a heavy coffee drinker for many, many, many years.
Yeah.
It just changed. Everything kind of changed.
Yeah.
And so that's interesting about
it
coffee
is,
that you
and
bring
I
up.
loved coffee.
So are you drinking any coffee now?
No, not even caffeine. No caffeine.
Yeah.
So even tea, like I started doing tea, but I do herbal caffeine-free tea because I didn't want any of it was like an upper chest tightness and then thoughts, and I was like, I just quit cold turkey, and so there was a good 3 or 4 day span where it was not very fun. It wasn't. It was like fog and all kinds of stuff. But I just won't do it again.
Yeah. I can go a few days and it doesn't bother me. It's more of a mental thing. It's like, I sure would like to have a cup of coffee,
Yeah.
First thing in the morning. But and I just notice when I don't drink it, I just feel better.
Yeah.
Just overall. But
some people, I mean, I used to love it. I really did. I'd get up, have 3 cups a day of pretty rich kind of coffee. I have a nice Nespresso
like the
coffee
dark
maker
roast,
with creamy, like, oh man, yeah, it's good. But and I'd have it all through the day. Sometimes if I was working in the afternoon or whatever, I'd have more. And it's
I've always limited myself to 1 cup in the morning.
Oh,
no.
I just went for it. Man. Crazy.
Well, I want to talk a little bit more about some of the political things. And again, the reason I'm talking about this, I just want people to understand what's really going on out there. It's funny when I talk about this, just like with the guy I knew on Facebook, people are trying to figure out what camp are you in?
Absolutely.
What so they can label you. Okay, you're this, you're that. These types of things. And I just tell people I'm not in any camp.
Right.
I'm just looking at individual issues. Look at various sources for information that I hope is unbiased in some perspective. But this whole ICE situation.
Yeah.
So if you're hardcore conservative, MAGA supporter, you're like, look, ICE is just doing their job, and that's what they do. They find people and they deport them out of the country. And these crazies over there are resisting that and fighting us, and doing all these different types of things. And then if you're on the left side of the picture, you believe that the police have been militarized, that they're actually going in there, doing this to regular American citizens. I think there was a lady that was killed by an ICE agent or something like that. They've deported some people that weren't meant to be deported, made some mistakes in that area. So I said, okay, let me back off a little bit here and try to look at this as objectively as I can. Let me gather some data, some facts. So under Trump, this administration, they have deported, they estimated, I think it was between, don't quote me, 1.3 to 1.5 million people. Under Obama, now this was during 8 years, he deported 3.5 million.
Okay.
So, Trump's on track to beat Obama on a number of deportations and stuff like that. And I go, nobody ever protested ICE when
No, you never
Obama.
heard about it. No, you never heard
What's
about
that?
it. You never heard about it.
No, I never even heard about it.
No.
It wasn't like a deal. It wasn't a thing. It's just that now that Trump's president, everybody's protesting about it.
So on this is interesting because to that point, everyone is very riled up about it. Not just like we know about it. Like you said, like during Obama, we didn't even know about it. I mean, I don't think anyone talked about ICE for 8 years. So it's not that people just know about it now. It's that they know about it and the meter is at 11.
Yes.
The temperature is just up.
It's dangerous.
What is causing that? The temperature to go from 0 to 11 if the deportations are up a little bit, but they're not like otherworldly. I mean, it's not like 10 times the amount.
What it is, as I did the research, looked at Obama, compared it to Trump, and I thought, well, what's going on here? What are people really upset about? I think what people on, if you want to call it on the left, are upset about are the tactics that ICE is using to root out these people. They feel that it's...
Are those different than what Obama used?
I don't know. I mean, I think they are. I think it's, well, number one, the number of raids and all that is exponentially increased under Trump.
Yeah.
The actual tactics themselves, I haven't done enough research on it yet to really understand what's different about that.
Yeah.
But I think that's kind of the real issue. And if people could just have a good debate put their emotions aside and just say, let's talk about this, right?
Right.
Which is really hard for people to do. They just can't seem to get beyond their feelings and their perspectives and the constructs that have been embedded into them. But it makes sense that we would have a debate about the tactics.
Sure.
Okay.
For sure.
I think the majority of people in this country believe that if you're here illegally, you should be deported.
Right.
It's just the method, how do we go about it? Those are the things that are debatable. And I think the Congress or whatever could come out with something and say, okay, these are the powers that ICE has and these are the powers that they don't have. This is what they can do and can't do. But it's so crazy right now, you can't get the two sides in the same room without it being just a big argument about everything. When we were in Vail, Colorado this year, they were having an ICE protest, and I walked right through the middle of it. I had to go get my truck from our hotel. And it took everything in me not to just want to stop and start talking to these people. But to be honest with you, I was kind of nervous about it. I thought, man, if I start talking to somebody and I express a different view, they may be a mob coming after me.
Yeah.
I mean, I just, it's just crazy what's going on out there. But I think that's the real issue is the tactics that they use. It's not necessarily that people don't want to deport people that are here illegally, but because it's so crazy right now, they can't seem to even sit in the same room together. And I think if I be critical of Trump, he fuels that, because he calls people idiots. It's just bad. That's the one thing I just do not like about the guy. And talk about an ego. Oh my gosh. All this guy does is tout himself all day long on there and attack his enemies. It's just craziness. without the understanding. What do we talk about? If you have harsh feelings towards somebody and you're in the same room with them, they're going to reflect back, what you have.
Yeah.
If he would go to Nancy Pelosi or whatever, and just kill them with kindness and say, hey, look, we disagree about these topics. Let's talk about them.
Mm-hmm.
I'll share my perspective. You share your perspective. But he's totally incapable of doing that without some kind of name calling and all that kind of stuff. And so that's what's being reflected back to him. All the hate and the negative emotions that he's vibrating towards others, that's coming back to him. And you don't get anywhere. And as a result, you've got a really divided country overall.
So if you look at that, because I would say probably even if he could do that, probably the other side couldn't. Like they might not be as bombastic as him and as like loud, but very potentially, like if you're in a high power of politics, it's a good chance that you're running on a lot of ego, it's just kind of the name of the game. Not everybody. Not that
it's
you have
crazy
to
you said that, because I'd mentioned this to someone that was a big Trump supporter, and they're like, well, of course he's got a big ego. Look at everything he's done. And I'm like, man, where's the humility? Where's you know what I'm saying? It's just like, you don't have to have a big ego to be successful in whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
But it seems like that's kind of a common thing, for people that are in politics, that hold those type positions. They have tremendous egos, that they're dealing with.
Their personal identity is largely wrapped up with their accomplishments and where they're at. Yeah. And so here's what makes I think about it like this, and kind of a question for you. But given that environment, specifically politics, it's always been fighting, arguing, wrestling. And now when you get the media involved to a degree to where they're not a neutral news reporting group, it's definitely political games being played through the media, all kinds of stuff like that.
The major networks are political organizations.
Very much.
Yep.
Very much.
Period.
I remember I had when I was in Bible school for years, I went several years without watching the news. And when I came back, they were all biased. And I was like, what happened? Like I had a 5 or 6 year gap of we didn't have TV for a while. We didn't care. And I came back and it was like there was the left and the right. And I couldn't believe it. But
it's all political commentary.
It is. Yeah. And so that's their world. They're fighting. They're playing those games. They're doing what they're doing. They're trying to get stuff done. I mean, they're trying to do things they believe in, I'm sure, on various levels, both sides, to make society the way that they think it should be run. But when it comes down to people and social media and people getting involved in paying attention to what's going on, I always wonder, how much attention do we really need to pay? Because I'm not saying be ignorant, but what I'm saying is, what are you doing with your knowledge?
You have no idea. You have no idea.
It's
like you're reading my mind right now. I mean, as you're sitting there talking, these thoughts are coming in about next subject.
Yeah.
And it's exactly what I believe you're talking about and what you're fixing to say.
Yeah, it's curious to me because a lot of people spend a lot of time arguing and debating what their side says and thinks. And at the end of the day, you could spend 3 years arguing about something and then change no one's mind. You're angry for 3 years. And the only power that you have in this society effectively is to go cast a vote.
Yeah.
Beyond that, who's changing anyone's minds? If you're not engaging in legitimate conversation with a willing party that's open, like we were talking about earlier, no one's mind is getting changes. It's just emotions going back and forth like toddlers.
Yeah.
What a life.
If you're angry towards someone or you think that person's evil or whatever it is, you're never going to get anywhere. And it's like the so-called presidential debates. What the heck? Are these grown adults or 2-year-olds?
Yeah.
No, you're the worst president. No, you're the worst president. It's like two-year-olds that they put in a room, and I just go, is this the best this country has to offer? Is these types of people?
Yeah.
up there. I mean, it's just totally absurd. But the point I was going to make, you said, what was it that triggered something in me? What was it you were talking about?
About just how much time and attention we give these things, and then you.
No, what it was, oh, okay. Yeah, that's what it was. So I have a relative, and this relative was really caught up in, I don't even know what, his worldview was all about society's collapsing around us. And, in the United States, there's going to be food shortages. It's coming. People are going to be starving to death. It was just doom and gloom. Okay. And, we would have these discussions, and it was just like really frustrating to me because I'm like, man, why do you even go there?
Right.
Why not be optimistic about our future?
For
why
sure.
not be positive? Why? Well, I'm being wise. I got to be wise. And well, he's getting all this information from various websites. He doesn't listen at all to mainstream media or anything like that. And the websites that he's going to have these constructs and these perspectives, So as a result of his belief systems, kind of, everything that's going on in his head, there's a lot of conflict in his relationships with others. And he's really suffered as a result of it, And so he discovered Joe Dispenza.
Oh, boy.
And he's seeing it now.
Yeah.
He's like going, oh my God, I'm creating all this in my heart because of these negative emotions and these negative perspectives and all these different things. So I'm having a conversation with him on WhatsApp, and I said, man, I'm really struggling because I'm trying to find a balance. Like I don't want to stick my head in the sand and not be informed as to what's going on today, but yet I don't want to be sucked into the chaos and be consumed by it and have all these negative emotions towards others that maybe have a different viewpoint. I just don't want to be sucked into that. So he responded back. He goes, let it go. Let it all go. He said, just stop watching it. Refuse, just let it. And he says, you'll be perfectly fine.
Right.
I know that to be true because I was in Colorado for 3 months.
Right.
And I didn't do it. And it was so refreshing. It was like, I mean, there's rioting going on? Where?
Yeah.
I don't see it here. I'm looking out my porch over the mountains and watching the elk and the coyotes come by in the morning and everything. And it's like, man, life's amazing, But I thought that was some wisdom right there.
Didn't
really
Jesus
wise
talk
advice.
about you're going to hear about wars and rumors of wars, but don't let your heart be troubled?
Yeah.
That's always going on. Chaos is always going on around us.
Yeah, absolutely. So that
That's some
was
wisdom.
profound, and then just us just sitting there having a conversation. You're kind of, emphasizing or reinforcing what I'm seeing. I really just want to get out of it. I don't want to have any more political conversations.
Yeah.
Now I would, and I can do it here.
Sure.
Openly and freely, but yeah, it's really hard to find people that are that open-minded. That are willing to do that.
I always feel too like I'm just I'm uneducated about what's actually happening on the global stage, and from my position, I feel like it's virtually impossible to be actually educated about it. I'm not in back rooms with leaders of nations. I don't know what's going on in it. So, given that, if I acknowledge that, I'm more interested to listen to people that are experts, that are unbiased, and they can have conversations, and I will be a listener.
Right.
But for me to think that I have a voice about things that I'm actually ignorant about, which is 99% of the people that are talking about these things, it's completely silly.
Yeah.
We should be listening. We should listen to experts that spend their life doing these things and that we can trust. I mean, trust factors into it.
It's hard to find those, and it's hard,
It is
sometimes
hard
it's hard
to
to
find
know
those.
who those
Yeah.
people are. It's so,
And that's only if you're interested. If you're not even interested, then
Yeah.
I don't think you need to.
having a conversation about ICE with this coworker of mine, good friend, that's definitely slanting towards a more left type perspective. You know, I don't know what they watch. I sense they watch probably a very liberal news network all the time, you know, that type of stuff. But he was so angry and upset about ICE wearing masks. I mean, like really upset about it. What are they trying to hide? You know, and then he makes an absurd comment that's based on total assumption. Maybe all these ICE agents are the same people that raided the Capitol January 6th or whatever, you know,
Yeah.
after Trump's election.
Yeah.
I was like, where did you get that?
Yeah.
What was there any? Is there any factual evidence whatsoever that would support what you're saying? And there's not. There's like zero. But it's somebody put that in his head. He was watching TV. Somebody said that, and he went, "Oh, maybe these are the same rioters that raided." And so I said, "Look, let me give you a different perspective. Okay, I just sharing this different perspectives. You know that these ICE agents are being threatened, right? I mean, they're being threatened with their lives, and their families are being threatened as well, that they're going to come after their families. They're just trying to protect their identity and their families, themselves and their families.
Yep.
I mean, it's a little weird and ominous that these military or these law enforcement people are wearing masks. It's like, what's going on? They're like the robbers now, right?
Right.
But there's a reason why they're doing it, you know? And it just, to me, it's like any sensible person would say, oh, okay, well, that kind of makes sense, you know? But
It's like you mentioned before. I don't know if we had started recording, but you mentioned Eckhart talking about the world being insane. A Course in Miracles talks about that too. It specifically says that the world is insane. This is an insane world. And you can see it in an example like that. But what you notice is like through that ego grabbing onto identity and sides and having to hold things, and then emotion gets involved and begins to color the experience of the person, like you talked about on Facebook. That is like the birthplace of insanity. You can't see. You don't know up from down. You don't know right from in from out. Like, so staying more in that neutral spot of, like you talked to me about ICE, like I hear you talking about ICE. Internally, I think I don't have an opinion. And I'm totally okay with that. If I wanted to have an opinion, I would go study, research, be like, okay, and then what would I want an opinion about? It'd be easier to have an opinion about one event maybe, but as a whole in policy, I'm not a politician. I don't know how to make policy for a country. And I'm not I'm smart enough to do it. I'm smart enough to, if I wanted to do that with my life, I could do it.
Yeah.
But that requires a real commitment, a real dedication of your life to invest in certain areas where you've actually qualified to speak about these things and to even think about these things. And if,
And you know what's amazing is I try to be this way. I say, look, this is where I'm at, and this is my perspective, right, wrong, or indifferent. I'm open to other perspectives by coming from people that are more educated on whatever the topic is, you know, those types of things. But people, I think I'm in the great minority in that perspective. You know, the majority of people out there just, they can't go there. We have an addiction, right, as human beings, and that addiction is to be right.
yeah,
You know, we desperately have to be right, you know. And I think that's a self-esteem thing and an ego thing. Once you really know who you are, you don't have to be right, you know.
absolutely. That is what's happening. And what's interesting, if you think about it comes back. It's very, very simple. Like what's going on. It is what we were talking about in the beginning, the oneness. And that is the solution to everything. But it isn't, it's not an idea. It's an experience of not the like the experience I had, but when you love somebody, when you really love somebody and you give love to somebody, that's an experience.
You set them free.
You do.
Free, set them free. So I'm freaking out, you know, because I don't know if you do this, but I get certain songs stuck in my head.
Yeah.
And the song that's been stuck in my head all week is the Sting song.
Which one?
If you love somebody,
Oh, yeah.
set them free, free,
Yeah.
set them free.
Yes.
It's probably my favorite Sting song. you know?
Yeah, that's a good one.
But it's been resonating
yeah.
in my heart and mind, right? And if people could see that person is me,
Yes.
okay,
Yeah.
and love that person,
Yeah.
you just want to set them free,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
And I'm getting God bumps right now just because of you mentioning that and that song being in my head all week long. You know,
Yeah.
set them free, set them free. Think about a relationship, husband and wife,
yeah.
where there's no jealousy. What did the scripture say? You know, that love's not jealous,
Yeah.
holds no record of wrongs,
Yeah.
all these different things. That's true love.
Yeah.
You know, and to have that kind of freedom in a relationship where you can express your innermost feelings to that person without any kind of judgment or condemnation or anything else,
Yeah.
and just have that freedom,
Yeah.
the whole world can be that way.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole world. It's. I think that everything that's happening is just everything's coming to a head, right? But there's going to be a time when we start to see that all this is working together for our good. You know, for society as a whole, and you know, for people as a whole. But you know, we may go through some painful experiences, you know, to get there.
Yeah. You know what's interesting? It was what Jesus summed it up when he said, whatever you do unto the least of these, you do unto me. And then he said, love your neighbor as yourself, because your neighbor is yourself, really. And when you think about what the Bible talks about, the accuser of the brethren, the accuser, like if I say to you, there's an accuser over there, like what's the visual that you would get of an accuser? What are they doing?
Well, I see, you know, when I was more religiously minded, of course, that was the enemy,
Sure.
Satan, you know, he's the accuser, you know, that type of deal.
But if
when
you have a physical, just a basic, if you're going to make a sign of accuser area, like what would the sign be? Do you know what I mean? Like you'd show a person doing what?
Welcome to the room of lies, you know?
I mean, like physically, what I'm getting at is pointing.
Yes.
An accuser is a pointer.
A condemner, yeah.
So that pointing, if you take it back to what we're talking about, if everything is one, there's nothing to point to. There's nothing to point at. There's no other to point to. So the idea of an accuser starts with the idea that there's an other. There is a separate that is not you and that you can point at. Yeah. And out of that idea of separation comes all the insanity and the wackiness of getting so far down the road of thinking this is the reincarnation of Hitler and or whatever you're going to think.
Yeah.
That all comes from the idea of separation, and it's just like building skyscrapers on this one idea. Yeah. And the nice thing is that those don't last because it's sinking sand. If it's not reality, if there's not really separate things, it's temporary.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. I mean, it's you know, in Christianity, it's religion divides, it separates. I mean, 40-something thousand Christian denominations, you know, and I don't think Jesus ever came to establish a religion.
Well, I did a study on that. Mm-hmm. It was interesting, and I used a bunch of AI tools and stuff. So I looked at all the things Jesus taught and talked about, summarized it. I mean, Jesus is walking around an area the size of greater LA, and he's talking in parables. He's talking to fishermen. He's talking to farmers. He's telling stories about
The kingdom.
like seeds and fruit. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
this is what's happening. This is not a guy writing a book. You know, the amount of written stuff we have about Jesus is like the equivalent of like 40 pages or something ridiculously small. But you have all of Christianity. Now what we say Christianity is not built about, Jesus didn't address anything we talk about. Jesus didn't touch on, this is where everyone goes off, the metaphysical realities of things. Like, what does heaven look like? How do you get there? Who is God? Who's on the throne? Who's not there? Who are the angels? Like, all this picture of what's happening and how do you qualify? Jesus didn't talk about any of that. Jesus' references to hell are 4 words, and they're different words, and they're referencing physical places. It's nothing like what we have right now. No. But this entire religion has been built off of things that Jesus never even addressed, didn't even talk about. Jesus is walking around, and what I see Jesus as is he was awake. He knew he was one with everything and with his Father and everybody, and he was showing us a path. He was showing you, this is what it looks like to walk like one with the Father, which is all
in the kingdom.
The kingdom.
He knew the kingdom was within him, and he was totally connected to it.
And then he said, Father, I pray that they be one as we are one, and I in them and they in me. Like, it's this soup of one. That's what he's talking about. And yet,
it was it the Apostle Paul said, it's no longer I who live.
it's Christ.
It's the Christ living in me,
Yeah.
and through me. You know, it's like his death was my death. His resurrection was my. What? It's like we look at that as almost figures of speech, but they're literal because there is only one.
Right,
You
right.
know, there is only one. You know?
Yeah.
Separation, dualities. You know, Don Keathley talks about all that duality all the time. It's an illusion. It's a total.
And that's,
illusion.
if you look at this world, this time-based world, it changes all the time, continually. You cannot put 1 ounce of faith in this world being a certain way. Yeah. I believe that my wife's going to be home when I get there. Okay, yeah, but you're believing, you don't know that. Like, you can't even trust someone that you would give your life for. You know what I mean? There's nothing that's absolutely solid in this world. Yeah. Yet, here we are. But the absolute, the God realm, that the unchanging realm, James talks about it, the Father of lights, with whom there is no variableness nor shadow of turning, like a sundial. Like, there's no shadow. There's no time. God doesn't move. God doesn't change. Guess what? You're one with that. Yeah. And so the foundation of everything is unchanging. But it is kind of living in the world. Real spirituality is living in the world, operating in the world with a continual awareness of the unchanging reality of who you are and who God is, and that doesn't change. Yeah, yeah. And so this becomes less. That's why you can see that kind of leads to awakening. When you get awakening is not going to happen to people. I don't know. It could happen different for all kinds of people, but in my experience, what the Holy Spirit undid all my connections to the world in a sense where I needed it to be real. I needed it to work out this way. I needed my politics to be my politics. And once you let go, like we've talked about many times, letting go, it's like the ego's just loosening. But you cannot take the step yourself. You can't awaken yourself. God does it. Because
you can try.
You can try.
I've tried.
And the crazy thing is, it's just the ego trying, because it's the idea of the individual trying. Yeah. But the nice thing is, you're already one with all. And your awakening might be like, I saw this picture of I didn't see it, but I mean, I heard this said, it's like a pile of snow melting until the last flake of snow is gone. And all that's left is what is. Yeah. Just what is.
Yeah, that's cool.
And we never end.
Yep. I could go on for hours. I was thinking about going into talking more about Christianity, scriptures, stuff like that. But that would maybe be a topic for another interview, because I could go on for hours about that. How I think the scriptures are very confusing for so
Yeah.
many people. I mean, I'm like you. I was obsessed with the scriptures for most of my adult life. Started studying the scriptures in the Hebrew and the Greek, and all of a sudden it's like, whoa, this is different.
Yeah.
Than the doctrines that were being fed to us. And there's this crazy view of God, and I had it for so many years. There's almost like God's schizophrenic or something. Like he has these two different sides to him, these two different personalities. And the one side is just and must punish and all this. And then there's this loving side, and this unconditional love side. Well, the two just don't fit, right? But I think what's confusing to so many people, if you look like in the book of Revelation, I heard a pastor on TV give a whole sermon about this. Oh, Jesus, when he came the first time, he was the lamb, the sacrificial lamb.
I've heard this.
But when he comes back,
Right. Yeah.
he's going to be the roaring lion, and he's going to destroy all his enemies.
Yeah.
I'm like, what does the scripture say? It says to love your enemies. God's telling us that, but it doesn't apply to him.
Yeah.
And besides that, who are his enemies? We're not his enemies. He has an enemy, and that enemy is the lie that's in our hearts and our minds, and that's what he wants to defeat, and that's his true enemy.
Yeah.
So then you look at the book of Revelation, Jesus comes, he's riding a white horse, he's got a sword coming out of his mouth, and he's destroying his enemies, It's like, guys, it's symbolic.
Yeah.
It's metaphorical language, It's not meant to be literal, but people believe it's literal. He's going to come back literally on a white horse, and he's going to slaughter everybody, that goes against him. Totally contradictory to who the person of Jesus is.
Yeah.
It's just not in his nature. It's not who he is. It's not who God is. So there's a lot of confusion there.
Yeah, it's all that imagery I really believe is the undoing of the ego.
Yeah,
It's the undoing of the
yes.
idea of the individual separate self. The ego is just a thing. It's just
Destroying it.
Absolutely.
Destroying it, yeah.
There's what seems to happen in awakening is that scripture where he says the last shall be made first and the first last. It's like we all thought we were individual people, and that idea of the ego is running in the forefront. It's running there like, oh, I'm a separate self. I've got to make my way in the world. God will bless me if I do right. If I do wrong, I'll pray for forgiveness. It's like you against the world, kind of making your way.
Right.
But when that gets moved to the last, that ego gets moved to the last, what's first comes up. What's first is who you have always been. So it's like I sit here and I could still have egoic thoughts or emotions or things happen, but like we were saying, you kind of watch it. You just look at it. You're like, oh, that's not, you don't identify with it. Yeah. It's still kind of like, it can be there.
That's just my ego. That's just the flesh.
Exactly.
It acts up every once in a while. Oh, well,
100%. I heard a girl talking about, she's like, I like my ego. It's so cute. It got sad when that happened. And she's just light with it, which is beautiful. But so that's what I really believe Jesus was saying. The last will be made first and the first last. Man, I had one other thought, but it'll come back if I'm supposed to say it. But
so just, again, I want to share a little bit about kind of where I'm at right now. And mainly in the area of being a creator and seeing things manifest in my life. So I started doing meditations, gosh, it's been 6 years ago now when I really kind of started, but was fairly inconsistent, And, there's certain things that I wanted in my life, right? And so, people teach, well, if you want something in your life, Jesus said this. He says, if you have a desire in your heart and your mind, and I'm paraphrasing, but, and you pray about it, again, we could talk about what that means, to pray about it, but you believe you already have it, it'll be yours. Unconditional. I think a lot of evangelicals, they try to say, well, if it's God's will,
Sure.
But the moment you have that thought, that this is only going to happen if it's God's will, that's where the doubt comes in. And Jesus says, but if you doubt, don't expect to receive anything.
Yeah.
You know, the power's in us. The power's in us and the belief system that we have. And then that believing that you already have it is where the emotions come in. If you believe you already have it, you're going to experience these emotions of having it, and then it's going to be yours.
Yeah.
You know, so Christians, evangelicals, when you start talking about this kind of stuff, you're new age. You know, it's like it's what Jesus talked about. It's just right there. You know, it's exactly what he talked about. But in my own life, personally, there were several things that I had envisioned for a long time. And it really wasn't until I truly believed that these things were going to manifest in my life and began to experience the emotions of it before they did start to manifest. So the first thing was selling my business. And I wanted to sell the business and have some kind of a deal where I had like a long-term residual income. So I sold my business in June of 2025, and I'm making twice as much money as I ever have in my entire life, you know, in this role with half the responsibility. And I just been blown away. But it's what I visualized. And what is it? The other thing I wanted was a ranch. There's something, I wanted that lifestyle, right? You know, I think all of us have a little cowboy in us and all that, you know. And so I was like, I just want that lifestyle. I want that, you know. So in my vision of having a ranch, I kind of visualized it. And part of the vision was I drove up to the ranch in a white GMC 1-ton pickup with brown leather interior and a horse trailer on the back. And I get my horse out of the back of the trailer. It's a big black horse. And I ride up onto the side of this hill. And as I look down over this valley, I'm overwhelmed with gratitude. But I have a revelation at that moment in time that these desires and everything are meaningless. I've always had everything that I've ever needed to be at peace and experience happiness and joy in my life. And I just have that revelation in that moment in time. Okay? So sell my business in June. Amazing. Everything I could have dreamed of, right? Buy a ranch in Colorado. And I wanted to sell my wife's Tundra. My wife drove a Toyota Tundra, and get something that would pull better because I'm going to have a horse trailer, all these different things. So I go to Fred Haas Toyota and said, what would y'all give me for this Tundra? And the guy, they come back with a price. Oh, that's a pretty good deal, you know. So I said, you know, it's a Toyota dealership. I said, I'm looking for 3/4 ton, 1 ton. I want to get a white truck I could use for pulling. You guys got anything like that? The guy goes, I got one. I said, you got one? He goes, go out in the parking lot, go to the far back of the parking lot, and you'll see it. I said, okay. So I start walking back there. As I approach it, it's the exact truck that I'd visualized.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a 1-ton white Denali with brown leather interior. I envisioned buying this truck used, but it being like ultra low mileage. Had 11,000 miles on it. Like brand spanking new, but $20,000 off the sticker price. I said, that's it. That's the truck that I envisioned, you know, and I bought it right there on the spot, you know. But I've been seeing these things come to fruition in my life, and it is intoxicating. It's exciting. It's like, whoa, this is just the beginning. But at the end of the day, the biggest revelation is, and I haven't experienced this yet, but I know it's coming, when I'm on that horse and I'm on the top of the hill and I'm overlooking my property and the valley and everything that I bought and saying, I've always had this.
Yes.
I've always had this peace. I've
Yeah.
always had, this is like icing on the cake.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But I've always had the cake within me. The kingdom of
Yes,
God,
yes.
righteousness, peace, and joy is mine. It's always been mine.
Yes.
And these external things, they're nice,
Yeah.
but they're really kind of meaningless
Yeah.
in the grand scheme of things. You
Yeah.
know? So, man, I have seen that
Yeah.
just over and over again. And yeah, it's a powerful thing. Powerful thing.
That's so beautiful. Two things. One, people miss the fact that we're always manifesting. We just don't consciously.
Good or bad. Yeah.
Yeah, like this how is this studio here? Well, I just believed I was the kind of person that would build this. Like I do production. I just believed that I was the kind of person that would do video production and do it well and blah, blah. You know, it's like you almost don't think about the things that you're manifesting on some level, but I love what you're saying. I mean, it's absolutely beautiful. And then the meaningless thing is 100% accurate. Yeah. This whole world is like a vapor. It's like vapor coming out of a tea kettle. I mean, what did you have for breakfast? You could list it off, but it's a distant memory at this point. Yeah. You think like we're sitting here right now, and in just a short time, these chairs will be empty and we'll be somewhere else, and that's where we'll be, and this will be a distant memory. We'll have captured it on some cameras, but at the end of the day, only those will exist in the future moment when we're enjoying it.
Yeah.
So that's like the time-based thing. It's like this believing in time is like believing in a needless weight. But when you kind of let go and you go, okay, world is just kind of happening. I'm going to participate. This kingdom of peace and joy, though, is really what's going on. And that's the thing that doesn't change. And so it's like when you settle into that part, that's what, like anything can come out of that part. And you realize you're connected to the whole thing. You're one with the whole thing. There's no striving and struggle. And why would Jesus be able to let his body die so easily? Why? Because he was aware that he's not the body, that there's something far beyond the body. Yeah. Yep. So but I think they go together. It's like when you see that meaninglessness, and then you see, well, I'm still here and I can love and enjoy, and you hold those two truths in one, that all of this comes out. I saw this years ago, but now I understand it more. But it's like you have the world built on top of the soil, which is all peace, nothing but stillness. God is stillness. Nothing's happening.
Be still.
Nothing's happening. There's no politics in God. Nothing's happening.
Believe it or not, God is not for Trump and against the other side.
It's true.
Okay? It's like, it's just crazy the way we think about things, you know. Not to say that God won't use Trump in some capacity, you know, but it's just, he doesn't really pick sides, you know. I mean,
we are all one.
We are all one.
God. And I have this thing. That's why I like movies. I like TV and movies that tell good stories. Because, you know, when you see a story about someone, it lets you look deeper into the person, and you can appreciate a situation or circumstance and find love even for a despicable character. But if you see someone that you don't love, you have anger toward, the only reason you do, not you, but anyone, is because you're looking at the surface. If you look deeper, you will find yourself in that person.
Yes.
If you just look deeper for anybody, Trump, Nancy Pelosi, I don't care. You will find yourself inside that person. Yeah. And people that rise up and say, no, I'm not like them at all. You're just delusional. Yeah. That's all that's happening.
Well, that's where the craziness comes in. Mm-hmm. That's when Eckhart says, I don't know what he said, 90%, majority of people, something like that in his book, are insane.
Yeah.
It's and what I think what he means by that is they're unconscious. They're walking through life with all these thoughts going through their heads, and majority of people, and I find this in myself, you know, really for so many years, but this is certainly changing. They're in survival mode.
Absolutely.
Everybody just walks around and, okay, what do I need to do to survive today?
Yeah.
You know, instead of living in the moment and saying, today is the day.
Yeah.
You know, today is the day to experience life, to be able to go into a restaurant and sit down and have this amazing meal and just the flavor of the food and the smell and it's just like embracing every single moment,
Yes.
and there's just the now. That's all there is. There's
Yeah.
just the now. There is no real future. There is no past. It's just an illusion. There's only the now.
Yeah.
And that book for me was life-changing.
It's beautiful.
The Power of Now, Late Great Planet Earth is the other one. David Hawkins' book, Letting Go.
Letting Go, yeah.
I started reading that about a year ago, and I go back and I read and I read and I read. A guy named Coot Blackstone, the Magic of Surrender, and he talks about, and David Hawkins talks about this too. When you truly get to the point where you just let go, okay, there's no more fear, there's no more anxiety, there's no more worrying about tomorrow, right? What did Jesus say? Don't worry about tomorrow, you know? And you truly let go, that's where miracles happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're just allowing, life's like a river and you're floating in an inner tube. And we have to learn, don't try to swim upstream. Let life kind of take you where life wants to take you. You can navigate around obstacles along the way, but it wants to take you to a beautiful place.
Yes, for sure.
Just let it take you
Yeah.
and enjoy the ride.
Yeah.
It's about the journey. It's not about the destination.
Yeah.
Just enjoy the ride. So, yeah, for me, it's just every day I'm seeing these things more clearly every day, and I'm still waiting for that Eckhart moment. Like you had, where I just go, whoa. I am,
And you might have
it.
many moments like that. You might. I mean, and you know this, but don't pigeonhole it. I wouldn't even look for it. But that letting go, the practical thing that worked for me, I say worked for me, but the thing I found myself doing was that forgiveness. Just forgive the world for what it did not do. Yeah. And I just spent time there and then just kind of let it go. And you're right where you need to be. Right now is right where you need to be. Yep. And there's nothing, the thing is, awakening isn't it's nothing anyone needs to crave in a sense, because all it reveals is that the home that you were trying to get back to, you never left. You've always been there and you never went anywhere.
It's like somebody flipped on a light switch.
Yeah. Oh, wait, I'm here.
Whoa,
That's
this is beautiful, man. This is amazing.
So it's less about like people think I'm going to get spiritual or I'm going to grow spiritually. But real spirituality is, there's none of that. It's just, I do nothing. I literally do nothing. I just don't think anything. I don't have to go anywhere. If you could stop thinking, like Eckhart talks about, then you're just in the present moment. And you can even look inside yourself. You can do this as an exercise. Like there's a guy that talks about this. It's called The Headless Way. He talks about non-duality in this kind of context. He's got a website about it, but he's got exercises on his website. I forget the guy's name, but he's a pretty well-known guy. But he has an exercise, a pointing exercise, where he'll be like, hey, point at this. He's written right on the website. And then point at yourself. And I tried it once. When you point at yourself, you try to locate the self, you realize that it's not as local as you think. Like it's not concrete at all. Like if you really go, wait, where am I? And you look on the inside, there's not a concrete thing in there.
It's not confined to your body.
No, it's not at all.
Because consciousness isn't.
Consciousness isn't. And then the headless way idea is this, it shows up, man, it's been kind of wild. Like you have different, like people talk about chakras and stuff. I didn't study any of that stuff, but I started experiencing things like, oh, you feel this and this. But what gets revealed is that I can never see my own face. I can look in a mirror and I can see a representation of it. I could film it with a camera and see a representation, but I can't look at my own face. But where is my face? Where is me? It's there. It's you. You're my face. Yeah. The world, that sounds kind of crazy if you know what we're talking about.
People think it's woo-woo, but it's really science.
You're one.
Yes.
It's you and I are one.
What are we? We're energy.
Energy. Energy is probably the best word.
Everything
Yeah.
is energy.
Is energy.
You know, science tells us that what we call matter is just energy vibrating at a very low
Right.
frequency.
Yes.
Okay. What does the scripture say? God is spirit. I believe that's energy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he is energy. That's what he is. And I'm not talking about necessarily energy like that's power in these cameras, you know,
Sure.
stuff like that. This is an energy that is at its very core love, you know, and that's what we are. If you could look at us under a microscope, our physical bodies, you could see that the atoms are, number one, they're spaced apart,
Yeah.
and there's empty space.
Right.
What is that? When you go on a rocket ship and you go out into the atmosphere and there's no oxygen, there's no gases, there's no nothing, what is there? There's empty space.
Yeah.
There's nothingness.
Yeah.
That's where we find God. That's where we find out, you know, who we are.
Yeah.
But
In the
it's
silence.
it's insane to think
yeah.
about it, you know, and really understand it. But well, I'd like to maybe come back sometime and maybe delve into the scriptures more.
Yeah.
Talk about the scriptures, you know, talk about some of the doctrines that we see in the church and how those things are developed, and you know, the doctrines of hell and second
sure.
coming and rapture and all these different things that
Yeah.
evangelicals believed in, and that I believed in for many, many, many years.
Yeah.
And but I see them very differently now. So we can
Absolutely.
talk about that.
It's been a journey. It's been a interest being a spiritual seeker in that whole world. You go through lots of peaks and valleys, and you think you understand, and then whoa, wait, I don't understand. It's such a trip.
I can see it in you. I mean, it's been a while since we've talked.
Mm.
You know, you've always been someone that's a deep thinker and all these types of things, which I like because I'm kind of in that same boat.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I sense a little bit more, well, a lot of just kind of a peace that's in you, and just a calmness, you know,
Yeah.
which is the kingdom. That's what the
It
kingdom
is.
It's a state of mind. It's a state of being. You know,
Yeah.
Jesus said he didn't say it was out there.
Right.
He says it's in you, and then
It
he
is.
says, "This is what it is." You want to know what
Yeah.
the kingdom is? It's righteousness,
Yeah.
being as you ought to be. That's what that word righteousness means. Peace and joy.
Yeah.
And where is it? The location? It's in you.
Yeah.
That's it. Okay? He made it so clear.
Yeah.
And I share that with people, and they look at me like I'm crazy.
Yeah.
I'm like, read it. Here,
Yeah.
you read it yourself. This is what he said. He didn't say it was some place on a planet 3 miles south of Mars. You know,
Yeah.
he didn't say that.
Right.
He says it's
Right.
in you. And his whole message, the gospel, getting ahead of myself, but the gospel, the good news, is about the kingdom being here and now and being in you.
Yes.
It's not about and forgiveness and sins and all that kind of stuff. If people would just understand what sin is, it's life-changing, you know, especially if you come out of a religious background.
Yeah.
But sin is hermetia in the Greek. There's actually two words. There's a hermetia and hermetano. But 90+% of the time when you look in the New Testament, it's hermetia. And it's a noun. It's not an action. And according to Strong's, it's to miss the mark or to err in what you think or believe.
Right. Right.
That's what sin is. When Adam and Eve were in the garden and they were deceived into believing they lacked something, that's sin.
Yeah.
The sin was not eating from the tree.
Yeah.
That was the fruit of what they believed
Yeah.
in their hearts and their minds. And they repented, right? They had a shifting or a changing of the mind in the wrong direction. God comes along. What are you doing? We're hiding. Why are you hiding? Well, I'm naked. Well, who told you were naked? What does he do? He kills these animals. God does. And he clothes them so that he would see them differently? No. He never saw them any differently. He never saw their nakedness. It was for their benefit that he made the sacrifice so that they would feel comfortable in his presence and be able to have a relationship with him. That's what Jesus was all about,
Yeah.
you know? So it's forgiveness of that wrong belief that's in our hearts and our minds. And that word forgiveness means to be divorced from it, separated from it, where you no longer say, you awaken to the fact that I am, okay? This is not who I am. It's something so much more than that. And poof, the awakening happens as to who you've always been, that you're not separate from God. You've never been separated from God. Your bad behavior was not enough to separate you from God because you live and breathe and find your very existence in Him, in this energy that we call love. That's it. That's it, plain and simple.
And the thing that goes with that is the timelessness, because like you said, sin being a noun, it's if people think they're a sinner, you're carrying the weight of the past, the whatever happened before. But in reality, there is no past. There is no. It is just this moment. That's what exists in God. It's just the present moment. And every present moment, so to speak, the present moment is completely divorced or independent from any type of past. So if I look at you right now and I remember, oh, gee, 6 months ago, Michael texted me, didn't get back to me. And I was like, uh-oh. That's just holding on to something that is not real. So that's why God, who always exists in the now, who we really are, there is no story that you did wrong.
Are we sinners?
You can no, there's no such thing.
So here's my perspective. And again, you got to understand what sin is. Okay, sin is it's a wrong belief. It's a perception,
right,
or a construct in your heart and mind that's false.
That's false.
Okay?
It's an illusion. It's
and
not
you
real.
believing in it. That's what it means to sin. So
right,
there is a point in time in your life where you believe that lie, which is what I define a sinner to be.
Right.
And then you awaken to the fact of who you truly are, and the lie is gone.
Right.
And you're no longer a sinner. Now, a lot of religious people will say, well, you're a sinner. You're still a sinner, saved by grace. But even the Apostle Paul said, that's what you once were, but now you've discovered you're something else.
Yeah, I mean, if a tree sits in my yard and thinks it's a piece of concrete, it's still a tree. It doesn't really matter. Yeah. If my son comes home and he starts barking like a dog, he's still my son.
Yeah.
And that's not going to change. And we somehow think that our decisions down here change the absolute. They do not change the absolute, which you are part of. Like you are connected to all of this. Yeah. And you can't disconnect.
Yeah. Good talk.
This is great.
I mean, we could go on for hours.
Yep.
But I think we'll continue it another time. But I appreciate you doing this. So
my pleasure. It was fun.
Pray to our gods of different nations, learning our differences of afterlife and creation.